Alright guys, over the next few videos we're going to take a look at chapters 7, 8, and 9. And so remember that you're going to have a test over chapters 6 through 9. Chapter 6 covered the basic skeletal system and the structure of bone and functions of the skeletal system. And in this lesson we're going to take a look at some specifics of the skeleton in terms of axial and appendicular. And then we're also going to take a look at joints. So this particular video is going to focus on just chapter 7. And so chapter 7 is all about the axial skeleton. And so before we do anything, we need to once again just kind of clarify what's the axial skeleton versus the appendicular. And so the axial skeleton is going to be the one that forms the main axis of the body. We're going to have our skull, we're going to have our vertebra, and we're going to have our thoracic cage. And so the purpose of your axial skeleton is going to be for protection and just kind of basic central support. And then the appendicular is going to be your appendages. It's going to be your arms and your legs as well as your girdles, which are going to allow them to attach to that axial skeleton. And this is going to be for bearing weight. This is going to help us move around from place to place and also help maintain stability. So chapter 7 is going to specifically look at the 80 bones of the axial skeleton, and we're just going to kind of do a brief overview because this is covered very heavily in lab, and so we're not going to necessarily spend a whole lot of time on this chapter because it is covered elsewhere. And so you can see where the 80 bones come from. We have 8 cranial bones which kind of surround and protect your brain. We have 14 bones in the face. We have 6 bones. Your auditory ossicles are going to be the little bones inside of your ear. You have the hyoid bone, which we'll talk about that in a moment. You have your vertebra. You're going to have 26 bones, which includes 24 vertebra, as well as the sacrum and the coccyx, both of which are going to be fused bones. And then you have your thoracic cage, which includes your ribs and your sternum. And so the cranial bones are the ones that protect your skull. Okay, a lot of them are flat bones. You have like 2 parietal bones. You're going to have 2 temporal bones, then you have the frontal, the occipital, and then you have a couple on the inside that are kind of hard to see. They're both some irregular bones. You have the sphenoid and then you have the ethmoid, and we looked at those in lab for sure. Then for your facial bones, you have a couple of singular bones. You have the mandible or the jawbone, and then you have the vomer bone, this little tiny bone inside of the nose there. And then most of them are going to be paired, like the nasal, the lacrimal, which are kind of around your tear ducts. You have the inferior nasal concha. You have the maxilla bone, which kind of forms that kind of bulk of your face in the middle there. You have your palatine bone, which is kind of behind the palate at the roof of your mouth. And then you have your zygomatic bones, which are going to be your cheekbones there. Now the auditory ossicles are the 3 tiny bones that are in your ear. We'll look at those again when we get to the nervous system, and we'll take a look at the ear in lab. And so we have the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. Sometimes these are commonly referred to as the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup based on how they look. But these are going to be the smallest bones in your body. You have the hyoid bone, which is a floater bone. It kind of floats above your trachea there. It does kind of serve as a base for your tongue. But it's unique in that it's the only bone that does not form a joint with other bones. We have the vertebral column, which one of the things we learned in lab is that you eat breakfast at 7 o'clock, lunch is at 12 o'clock, and dinner is at 5 o'clock. And that will hopefully help you remember the numbers of your vertebra. So you have 7 in the cervical region or the neck. You have 12 in the thoracic, which is around your chest. And then you have 5 in the lumbar, which is that lower back area. And then the sacrum it actually consists of 5 bones that are fused together. And then the coccyx, what we commonly call our tailbone, is 4 bones fused together. Then we also have our rib cage or our thoracic cage, and this is going to serve to protect our heart and our lungs. And so we have the sternum that we commonly call our breastbone, and the sternum is comprised of 3 parts. We have the manubrium, we have the body, and we have the xiphoid process. And then we have 12 pairs of ribs. We can break them up into true and false ribs. And so the first 7 are what we consider our true ribs, or they're known as vertebrosternal. And because if you look at them, they all attach to cartilage. but that cartilage connects directly to our sternum. And so pairs 1 through 7, vertebrosternal, they're connected to the vertebra on the back, and then they come around and they connect to cartilage that goes directly to the sternum. Now the next 3, 8, 9, and 10, are vertebrochondral. So they attach to the vertebra, and they come around and they attach to cartilage that then attaches to more cartilage. So it doesn't connect directly to the sternum, but connects to cartilage that then attaches to the sternum. And so we call those false ribs. And then we have 2 that are also considered false ribs, but a lot of times we commonly refer to them as floating ribs. And this is going to be pairs 11 and 12. And as you can see, they only attach to the vertebra. They really don't come around and attach to cartilage or the sternum, and so they're just known as vertebral ribs. And then something else to know about the axial skeleton is that you may develop something called wormian bones, and these are just some extra pieces that occur within a suture. So a suture is a type of joint that joins our skull bones together. They are not totally rare, but they are not necessarily common to everyone. And so they're irregular and isolated, so they're not necessarily something that everyone has. And so extra bones that form within sutures are known as wormian bones. And we're going to stop there, and we'll pick up with the appendicular in the next video.